Hey everyone, welcome to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. In this session, we will learn about software development, who is a software developer, and the different types of software developers in the IT industry. But before we begin, let me tell you guys that we have daily updates on multiple technologies. If you are a tech geek in a continuous hunt for latest technological trends, then consider getting subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. And we can define the term software development as follows. Software development is a branch of computer science which includes the development and building of computer systems, software, and application software. Now that we know the process of software development, let's move further and learn more about a software developer. So who exactly is a software developer? So a software developer can be defined as follows. Software developers are computer science professionals who use the knowledge of engineering principles and programming languages to build a software. Now that we have some briefing about what exactly is software development and whom do we call a software developer, we will now enter into our core topic for today's discussion, where we will learn the types of software developers and the languages, including the frameworks that you need to know to become one. And also, to make things better, we will also learn some of the additional skills that you might need just in case to make sure you never miss anything in real time. So, let's get started. We will begin with the front-end developers. So basically, the front-end developer specializes in the programming of visual interfaces, including its aesthetics and layouts. The front-end developer's code runs on the web browser, on the computer, or a mobile user of the site. It is very high-level work, normally far removed from the hardware. It requires an understanding of human and machine interaction and design principles more than a computer science theory. So, the popular languages required to become a front-end developer are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Followed by that, the major frameworks or the IDEs that you might have to master to become a front-end developer are Visual Studio, IntelliJ, PyCharm. Also, some of the major additional skills that you might require are Git version control. For example, if something goes wrong along the way, the last thing you'll want to do is start over from the beginning. Version control is the process of tracking and controlling changes to your code so that this won't happen. So, version control software is a tool you will use to track those changes so you can go back to the previous version of your work and find out what went wrong without tearing the whole thing apart. Followed by that, the next additional skill you might need is to build responsive design that controls and supports multiple devices. These days, we use any number of computers, phones, and tablets to look at web pages. Ever notice how these pages adjust themselves to the devices you're using without you doing anything on your end? This is due to the responsive design. Understanding responsive design principles and how to implement them on the coding side is the key to the front-end development. So the last and important additional skill is to be able to write code for various types of testing. Bugs are the reality of the development process. In order to keep things moving, you'll need to test your code for bugs along the way. So the ability to test and debug makes the list of essential skills for front-end developers. There are a couple of different testing methods for web development, out of which functional testing looks like a particular piece of functionality on your site like form or a database and make sure it does everything you've coded to it to do. Followed by that, we have unit testing. Unit testing is another method. It tests the smallest bit of your code that's responsible for one thing on your site and examines it individually for correct operation. So followed by the front-end developers, we have the back-end developers. So the backend developer is the one who specializes in design implementation, functional call logic, performance and scalability of a piece of software or system running on machines that are remote from the end user. Backend systems can grow to very complex, but their complexity is often not visible to the users. For example, consider Google search engine. The front-end part is very simple user interface with a title and a text box and 2 or 3 buttons. The backend is enormously complex system able to crawl the web index and find what you're looking for with a growing array of sophisticated mechanisms. So with this, we will move ahead and understand the major programming languages and frameworks that you need to specialize to become a backend developer. So the major programming languages that you might be needing to become a backend developer are Scala programming language, Java, Perl, and finally the Python programming language. These are the leading and cutting-edge programming languages preferred by professionals in real time to code the backend process. Also, the major IDEs or the frameworks that you might be needing to become a backend developer are the Visual Studio, IntelliJ, and Python. So the important additional skills that you might require to become a backend developer are having some good knowledge of session management in a distributed environment, basic exposure to the front-end technologies like HTML and CSS is desirable. Followed by that, you should be having an awareness of security concerns, which is important because different layers may have different kinds of vulnerabilities. Followed by that, the backend developers must be able to code unit testing and other types of functional testing for the backend part. Followed by this, we will move ahead into the next type of developer, which is the full stack developer. The full stack developer is the one who does both the front end and the back end. He or she has the skills required to create a fully functional web application. Also, we will discuss some additional features to become a full stack developer. The first one is knowledge of both front end and the back end fundamentals. As we made it clear that a full stack developer is concerned with front end and the back end, they must be possessing the fundamental design skills. Followed by that, the next important skill is knowledge of database, which is crucial. All the web applications need a database where all the data will be stored. This is to ensure that developers can access the data later. Database stores calls for an experienced and skilled full-stack developer who knows relational databases and database storage inside out. Finally, backend programming languages like Ruby and PHP. While we have covered the two most critical front-end languages, that is the HTML and CSS along with JavaScript, the other important part of software is the backend. While the backend development is a whole new different game. There's plenty of programming languages to choose, so out of which the major programming languages that I would like to mention are Ruby, PHP, Python, Java. Followed by the full stack developer, we have the mobile developers. So the mobile developer is the one who codes the applications that run on mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. Mobile development was almost unheard before the early 2000s and the explosion of smartphone market. Before then, mobile development was considered as a subset of embedded development. So the major programming languages that you might want to consider to become a mobile developer are Python, Kotlin, JavaScript, and Java. So majorly Java and Kotlin are used for Android development. So the IDEs and frameworks that you might want to learn to become a mobile developer are Visual Studio, Android Studio, AppCode, and WebStorm. Followed by that, we will also discuss some of the additional skills that you might require to become a mobile developer. You should have the ability to learn quickly, and you should also possess the ability to interpret and follow the technical plans. Followed by that, you should be having the major skill, that is the instantaneous problem solving skill. And finally, strong communication skill to understand your client requirement. Followed by the mobile developer, we will enter into the desktop developer. So the desktop developer is the one who works on software applications that run on desktop operating systems such as Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. Back in the 80s, these were one of the most common types of developers popularized by inexpensive development environments such as Turbo Pascal, Turbo C, Visual Basic, Quick C, Visual Studio, and Delphi. So to become one of the desktop developers, you might want to learn the following programming languages and programming IDEs or frameworks. So the programming languages that you might want to learn are Python, Perl, JavaScript, Java. Also, the major IDEs that you might want to learn are Visual Studio, IntelliJ, PyCharm, and NetBeans. Followed by that, the additional skills that you might require are: you should be able to build reusable code and reusable libraries, code optimization for maximum speed and scalability of the desktop applications, and to use automated testing platforms and write unit tests, and finally, to be able to test, debug, and document any custom codes that you might want to add to your desktop application. Moving ahead, we shall enter into the next type of developers, which are the web developers. So the web developers are the software developers who specialize in creating websites. They're either the front-end developers or the back-end developers, or sometimes even the complete full-stack developer. Web development became a very common way to enter the software engineering world in the late 90s and early 2000s. So the major programming languages that you might want to learn to become a web developer are Python, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. Also, the major frameworks or the IDEs that you might require to become a web developer are Visual Studio, IntelliJ, Dreamweaver, and the PyCharm. So some of the major additional skills that you might require to become a web developer are to understand the standard lawsuits on web design copyrights. You might think that this is not a necessary skill for you and there is a legal department which will be taking care of this. But knowing a basic, up-to-date copyright laws is something you should keep in mind, especially when you are a part of a large development project where your team is given a lot of creative control. Likewise, if you are a coding entrepreneur trying to build the next Facebook or Twitter, knowing copyright and cyber laws regarding privacy could either mean a success to you or a devastating lawsuit over your head. So it's better you know some basic lawsuits on web design copyrights. Followed by that, you should be having some strong basics of HTML, and followed by that, you should be well versed with version control systems, and finally, you should have some decent knowledge of debugging tools. So with this, we enter into our next type of developer, which is the graphics developer. So the graphics developer is specialized in writing software for rendering, lighting, shadowing, shading, culling, and management of scenes. These developers are often responsible for integrating technologies in gaming and video production industry. Graphic development used to be a form of low-level development requiring advanced math and computer science training. It is becoming more accessible with the introduction of commercial and open source frameworks. For example, very few people today are able to write a shader from scratch. So the basic programming languages and the programming IDEs or frameworks that you might require to become a graphics developer are C++ and C, and similarly the IDEs that you might require are OpenGL, WebGL, DirectX, and Unity. So some of the additional skills that you might require to become a graphics developer are understanding the client requirement, as it is a key to create a successful project. Followed by that, creativity is one of, if not the most important skill for a graphics designer. And finally, having a sound knowledge of HTML and fundamentals of programming languages such as C++ and C will be an added weight on your resume. Next ahead, we have the data scientist. So, a data scientist is a special type of developer who writes software programs to analyze data sets. They are often in charge of statistical analysis, machine learning, data visualization, and predictive modeling. So the important programming languages that you might want to learn to become a data scientist are R programming language, MySQL, Python, and even sometimes Java. So the important frameworks or IDEs that you might require to become a data scientist are Jupyter Notebook, Spider, PyCharm, and RStudio. So some of the additional skills that you might require to become a data scientist are decent knowledge of data ETL tools, that is data extraction, data transformation, and data loading. A data scientist has multiple data sources such as MySQL, MongoDB, Google Analytics, and many more. So data scientists have to extract data from such sources and then transform it for storing it in a proper format or structure for the purposes of querying and analysis. So having a fundamental knowledge of ETL tools is always important. So followed by that, the next important skill is the data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI. Results that cannot express are considered ineffective. Hence, using some top-notch data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI is really important for a data scientist. Followed by that, we have communication skills. So communication skills are really important to understand your client requirement and help him with the right data which he needs. So finally, the big data frameworks. Most of the organizations are using big data analytics to gain hidden business insights. It is therefore a must-have skill for data scientists. So with this, we will move ahead into the next type of developer, which is the big data developer. So what exactly is a big data developer? So big data developer is the one who writes software programs to store and retrieve vast amounts of data in systems such as data warehouses, relational databases, data lake management systems, etc. using the most crucial tools, which are the extract, transform, and load. So some of the major programming languages and the frameworks that you might require to become a big data developer are Scalar programming language, R programming language, Java most importantly, and next is the Python. So the major frameworks that you might require to become a big data developer are Jupyter Notebook, Spider, PyCharm, and Apache Spark. So Apache Spark is a processing layer similar to MapReduce. So this is the fastest processing layer compared to MapReduce. So I prefer you to learn the basic terminologies and the components of Hadoop along with Apache Spark processing layer. So followed by this, we should also learn some additional skills required to become a big data developer. So the additional skills include to be capable enough to design, build, install, configure, and support the Hadoop system, working on disparate datasets, create scalable and high-performance web services for tracking data, maintain security and data privacy. So for Hadoop, we have Kerberos for security and data privacy, and finally, high-speed querying. So high-speed querying can be done by frameworks such as Hive, HBase, etc. So finally, we will enter into the last type of developer in today's session, which is the cybersecurity developer. So who exactly is a cybersecurity developer? So the cybersecurity developer specializes in creating systems, methods, and procedures to test the security of software system and exploit and fix the security flaws. So this type of developer often works as a white hat ethical hacker and attempts to penetrate systems to discover the vulnerabilities. So the major programming languages and frameworks that a cybersecurity developer must know are Python, JavaScript, and PHP. Also, the important frameworks that the cybersecurity developer must know are Information Security Management Systems, CIS controls, and NIST CSF. Adding on to that, the important additional skills that a cybersecurity developer must know are the fundamentals of hacking. To be a cybersecurity developer, you need to think like a hacker to fully understand how a system could be breached and, in turn, creative, effective solutions to stop these attacks from penetrating into your system. Followed by that, the next important skill is to have a fundamental knowledge of computer forensics. So what if your efforts fail and your confidential data gets recovered even after you destroy every single clue of it? While computer forensics and cybersecurity are two separate fields, they actually are closely related. So having a foundation on computer forensics can help you excel your cybersecurity career. Followed by that, the next important skill is to pay attention to every single detail. So being confident is good, but being ready is not a crime. Being a cybersecurity developer, you will be responsible for continuous network monitoring and will need to be able to quickly identify concerns and come up with real-time security solutions to address them. So better you give some attention to every single detail and be ready for the next potential threat. So the last additional skill is fundamentals of cross-platform security. Cybersecurity isn't just limited to computers. You'll need to be comfortable working on a variety of operating systems, computer systems, mobile devices, cloud networks, and wireless networks, and to keep up to date on advances in the field of all of them. With that, we have come to an end of this session on Software Development Fundamentals tutorial. If you have any queries regarding any of the topics covered in this session, or if you require the resources like PPT, code demonstration, or projects used in this session, then do let us know in the comment section below and our team of experts should be more than happy to resolve all your queries at the earliest. Until next time, thank you, stay safe, and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.